Good morning, everybody. Thank you. I'm guessing the beer wasn't as good last night as it normally is because it's a lot of people turning up. So, thank you very much. Made us very happy. So, who here is ready to sit through 1.5 hours of intense Navision demos? Yeah. Unfortunately, you're in the wrong room then. This is a little bit of a unique session. I was asked by Nav Skills quite a while back now to do a presentation about the history of Navision, and I was quite shocked by the positive response it got. And thinking about the product, we all know where the product's going, but where are we as people going? So I wanted to do a people-oriented session. So I had a talk with my good friend Erik. Erik and I have been working on and off with Navision since the beginning of time, I think. I think if Michael Nielsen's here, he's about the only person longer than us, but there's a few more. So we're doing a presentation about us, the people, and we're going to talk about people. So we just did a little bit of our credentials. And the first thing is, and this is going to be a theme here, is that Erik and I both started in Navision when we were in our 20s. We're both now in our 50s, and we're still doing much the same thing we were doing back in before most Navision developers should have even been born. But anyway, together, we've got a total of 54 years of Navision experience. We've been in Navision communities for 48. If we combine our numbers together, it's quite a lot we've done. So we've been around and we've done just about every aspect, and we've seen the changes. We've watched Navision change and grow throughout the years, and what we haven't seen is the growth in the network. If we look maybe 10, 15 years ago, there was about 53,000 developers, the last I remember, which would have been about version 4 of Navision. There's about 150 now. That's not good growth. If we look in there, we can see that it becomes obvious where we all are. So there's a comet coming. It's about to hit. It may already have hit, and maybe we're already in the global cooling stage, what it's called, and we want to have a talk about that. So we want to go here. So we've broken this session into 3 sections. We want to cover what we did before, what was the history of Navision, and that's not what we're here for, but if you don't learn from history, you're going to repeat it. So we want to try and show you the things, the mistakes that were made, mistakes we made, mistakes many people made to move forward. We're going to try and define the problem, which is the core issue here. We want to say, what is the problem here? We have a wonderful product. I mean, everybody here, I'm sure, is really impressed with what they've seen with BC. The new product is amazing. The new modern client is solved all the problems that we had, that we lost in all the earlier versions. And then we're going to give the solution, but there is no solution. So we're saying this, but in reality what we're going to do is we're going to get our crystal ball out and we're going to say, if we look back those 27 years, it sounds a long time, doesn't it? What would we have done differently? And we want to basically aim that towards 2 directions, and that is, for the dinosaurs out there, what do you have left? What can we do? What should we be doing? Where should we be heading? But more importantly, it's about the next generation, not to make the mistakes we made and to make sure they head in the next correct direction. So we're just pointing out we're doing this together, and it's a little bit of interaction here, but now I'm going to hand it to Erik, and he's going to give us our look at the past.
Yes, because where did it all start? It started back in 1984 with something called PC Plus, which was a very new and exciting thing. It was an accounting package, a very basically small accounting package, but it could run on the new thing, which was PCs. So a little company called PCNP, PCNC, made this package available in 1984, and it was revolutionary. When I started my college and my IT education, I met PC Plus. I was sold right away, and I knew this is where my career is going to be.
And that drives a lot of the thing, isn't it? A lot of us just saw Navision or whatever version we saw, we loved it so much we just got sucked into it, right?
So we started back in '84. was a very simple system. It was a DOS client, we had a database, and we had a report designer. We were able to change a little bit. It was nothing as we had today, and it was, of course, only a single user setup. Then we jumped to 87, where we have the first navigator. Navision is not really a name yet, and it's an IBM product. In Denmark, where it was sold in a blue packet, and it was called IBM Navigator.
Well, IBM was the distributor, right?
They were the
PC still
distributor,
existed.
yes.
Yeah.
PC and C were basically just a development house. Everything else was handled by IBM. And that's how it was with the first version. We had a small designer. We could do reports. We could do minor changes to forms and tables, but nothing as we have today. For anything to be close to what we have today, we have to go to 89, when Navigator or Navision 3.0, at that time Navision was not really a name, it was still Navigator, but and IBM was still selling it in Denmark. But here in 89, the revolution was that we had an accounting package. With an object designer, we could change basically everything. We had everything we have today, more or less. We had the tables, we had reports, we had data port, we had forms, we had code units, and it was a revolution. We had application language, we had the AL, which was a language very similar to the most popular development language at that time, Pascal.
I like the
So
name.
it was very easy for everybody to learn, because Pascal, at least in Denmark, was the first development language we were learning.
So the name AL, they could reuse that, couldn't they?
The name AL that we have today comes back from application language to the system here. Then something started to happen in
Oh, I know what happened here.
You do?
Yeah.
What?
This is my first version of Navision. This is where I joined. This is when it changed. This is when it became great. Didn't exist before that.
So
Not without me.
and that was I started in 1990, so I think it was 3.01. That was the version there. But 3.04, we also started to see the Navision name being used. The company was still called PC and C.
PC&C, yeah.
And then we moved to 94. And as you see, there's not a lot of things happened. Of course, there were a number of minor updates, but when we get to 1984, we start getting ability to do something outside of the system. We got an ODBC driver. Remember, I did the first web shop in around 94 based on an ODBC driver. It was terrible.
An info store. You had POSs coming in. You had interfaces. Now you actually do something. And this was a big thing because Navision back then, the biggest issue always was this closed database you had no access to. You had a report designer, data export, and that was it. Everything else was locked inside the database.
What was also interesting is how many different platforms they were supporting.
Yeah.
How many, like Oracle, Omex, different Unix version that actually made our server run on a lot of different platforms. 95. Windows. And as you notice, at that time, the name was actually not Navision. Navision was the company name. Financial was the product name. And besides what we had in the old version, in the DOS version, it was basically the same we got up
Although
here.
they took a lot of stuff away.
Oh yeah,
Red screens and global filters.
Yeah, we're still missing a few of the DOS functionalities in the Windows product today.
Most of the functionality of the DOS 3.5.5 version is now available in the modern client. I think the modern client, after 25 years, finally has given us back everything we lost 25 years ago, which is wonderful. So well done to the Moderna team. You did good. Only took 25 years, but you did great.
Version 2. As you see, it's a little difficult to see up there, but one of the big things when version 2 came out was that we actually got a print button. Remember, that was, people think, why can't we print? And of course we could print a report, but we didn't have like a print button. It was a big thing. Same as we got on the forms, the timer that allowed us to do like almost scheduling thing and have something that run and did it automatically.
So finally by version 2, there was this realization that people live outside of Navision. And this has been an ongoing thing with Navision, is that because of where we've all come from, you do so much today based on DOS version of Navision. And probably many of you have even seen the version. How many people here have installed the DOS version of Navision? Oh, it's a good chunk of you. But the rest of you are doing things every day in 2018 because of the DOS version. So these are habits that need to be broken. And this is the version that's set where we could actually have real access into the database. And at this point, we could have stopped all the bad habits back then.
Did it? The wrong one. 99.
That was a big one.
David was not happy.
No, this was not happy.
We got the SQL database. And performance.
It was really bad.
Yeah.
It was really bad.
It was not a nice.
Consistency didn't work. The version principle we lost to locking. So much changed, and it was time for some people to be in a lot of pain and a lot of people to make a lot of money.
2001 didn't really
No.
so much happen. Yeah, except, we need to go back because because what actually happened in 2001 was that Navision were planning kind of to split up Navision into separate apps. They had the manufacturing, they had the base app, they had manufacturing, they had different. So the name when 3.0 was released was Navision Solutions. But it actually didn't really happen. It was announced, it was released like this, but then they merged with DamGuard. So the company became Navision DamGuard AS, and the name was very fast. When the products started getting out, it was Attain. Attain also had the first really packages that came along. We got the Navision user portal, we got the commerce gateway, and we got the commerce portal. The commerce portal was basically an upgrade of the Navision web shop that we had in version 2.
And what's important here is that the Navision application server, this was now the first time that we could actually launch Navision code from outside of Navision. This is where things like web services eventually developed from. So we can see that basically in 2000, which is 16 years ago, we had the option to start doing what people are only starting to do now. That's not because we didn't have the product, it's because us as developers or business owners were just too comfortable in their safety zone and never took the risk to go and do that. There were some web shops, there was some things like Data Director, there was a few products, but at this is the point where we should have started thinking of Navision as being the finance system, and we should have been writing all of our applications outside of Navision. But we didn't. We kept building in and building in and building in.
And of course, we noticed that the programming language have now changed to CAL when the Windows version came out. 2004, we got Navision 4.0. And
oh, what's that? XML port, menu suite. We've got some new boxes there.
oh, yeah.
After all those
2004, for the first time in 15 years, we got some new objects. We got the menu suite, and we got the XML ports. But 15 years since we started, the first real change in the development area.
So the first real seaside change. We've had all these, they've given us all these options to access the database now, to get it in, the data's in SQL, we can run code, but now we've got our first seaside changes.
And we also got the business notification. Did you ever use that?
No.
No. No. There was a lot of hype, but did anyone you ever use the business notifications? Oh,
One of the things
a couple of hands, but
yeah, about full hand.
but
One of the things we want.
that's what we have seen.
I'm talking. Let me talk.
Talk.
One of the things we want to make a bit of a theme here is that there are features that came and went and came and gone. They vanished and disappeared. And there's a cost factor involved for us as developers, as consultants, investing in that technology and not being sure if it's going to survive again. And business notification or your commerce portal, SharePoint, etc., you'll see these boxes appear and then they vanished again. So that's a risk for us that we have to keep in mind. What happened there?
What happened here?
What happened?
Oh my!
Navision was so
let's
good.
no.
It was a market leader. It was a market. Go back.
Forget
What
it.
was
Forget
that?
no.
What happened? What is this? Ah, the Dark Ages. Yes. This was a bad time.
That was project. Can we say it?
Don't even say it. You don't even allowed to say it.
Okay.
It's not blue, it's not orange, it's not yellow, it's something, but I can't remember what. But we're not allowed to say that. This was the pain time. This is when the developers left, the customers left.
Everybody thought this is the end of Navision.
Yep, the end of times. Navision was dead. I was out there telling everyone Navision's dead, we need to get out. I didn't think we'd ever survive this.
But luckily we did.
We did.
Microsoft forgot everything about, or I don't think they forgot it, but they hid it. They didn't talk anything more about this Project Green. So in 2007,
You don't say that.
oh, I said it.
We went through this how many times? Don't say green. Oh, sorry, my fault.
But in 2007, we got the rapid implementation method tool, and we got our XML Style Sheets. XML Style Sheet was another one of these technologies that we expected to be something we could use for a lot of things, but it was never really. It's still there, but who's using XML Style Sheets nowadays? Well, I haven't used it for 10 years. 2009. What we got in 2009 was actually, if we just go one slide back, what we had expected version 5.0. We had expected that version 5.0 would have the new role-tailored client and everything, but they were delayed and they were delayed and they were delayed. So we got a version 5 with a lot of new functionality, but nothing really in the technical side. But then in 2009, we're getting close to where we are now.
Just out of curiosity, how many people ever installed 2009 RTC? Wow.
That's everybody,
Wow.
almost.
Amazing. I've never installed 2000 once. That was about 6 months ago.
But the thing, of course, is that we now had the specific NAV server, we had the role-tail client, and we also had web services. The first time we were able to use PowerShell for some very, very few
No one
things.
uses PowerShell. It's not,
Huh?
No one uses PowerShell.
No one uses PowerShell. And of course, we got the page. The forms and data ports were still in use. And we started to do reports with Visual Studio.
Not net.
Not now, but we also got control add-ins, which was actually in the R2 release. That happened because 2009, came in 2009, but then no real new version was coming up until 2012.
The biggest thing you see there is the death of the native server. And it's two things that happened here. One, SQL was introduced before it was ready. It was introduced way too soon. So it was very difficult for people to convert to it. But once it was working, it was brilliant. And unfortunately, they hung on to the native database just a little bit too long. So They introduced SQL too soon and released this too long, which left this long gap of overlap where some customers supporting SQL and native, trying to write code that would support two databases with two completely different locking mechanisms. And it caused a lot. I mean, some people made a lot of money out of this, right, Mark? But that transition period was too long. The SQL shouldn't have been introduced until it was ready, and native database should have died a lot sooner.
Yeah, and also surprising, we got the SharePoint client.
What? What's that?
SharePoint?
Yeah, what's that?
Something that comes with the Office subscription.
I'm sure it
You
is.
store your files.
Yeah, okay. I know a lot of people spend a lot
And we have the query.
Mm-hmm.
Query is probably one of the object that is mostly underused, especially when we talk performance.
Mm-hmm.
2013, multi-tenancy. Multi-tenancy came in and wasn't really something people requested, but together with 2013 R2, we also had the Danish product C5, which was released as Dynamics C5 2014, which was really a downscaled version of Navision to replace this SMB small end accounting system in Denmark. And to do that, they introduced the multi-tenancy to allow more people to run on the same setup, but who else were using it?
Yeah. Well, one of the things to note now is that this is a stage where if you'll download this later, look at the PowerPoint, run through these again, you'll see that things come and go. This comes in, this goes out. This is here and it goes out. What you'll see now is that SharePoint, there's a spoiler alert here, will vanish. But you're going to see that things come in and we're not losing things as much anymore. There is finally a level of stability that you're going to see. And just keep a note of that we don't lose as many things. And that's important for us as developers and consultants to understand that stability is critical for us to grow.
And as we talked about yesterday, in 2013 was actually when we got the JavaScript abilities. And Rapid Start RIM tool is now Rapid Start. In 2014. Ooh. Here we start seeing something that is close to today. We have the first Power BI integrations. We get SQL Report Builder. We get the Word reports. We get the universal clients, the different things. In there we get Office 365 integration. We get access with Windows Azure. And we have the ability to merge with Delta files. In 2015, that's not that far away.
No, it's not. It seems that those jumps were, you said like 15 years from without any changes to Seaside, and now we've seen these boxes start to be appearing very quickly now. A lot faster than they were before. Is that
The speed is really going up.
It is, isn't it?
There's a lot of more changes coming. They're coming much quicker. We're getting outside. We're getting into the Azure SQL. We have the CRM. Actually, we had CRM integrations a lot of times through history, but either it was too complex or. But how many times has it been rewritten now? The CRM integration?
Lost count of it. And none of them are compatible with the others. But what I'm seeing here is that, firstly, a lot of these things aren't Navision, are they? Java, .NET, Visual Studio, Word, Azure, Office. We're becoming a part of the real software world out there now. We're no longer stuck in our little box.
And most importantly, in 2016, the first version of extensions.
That's a pretty big one.
That's That's a change. 2016, we got NAV 2017, and it starts to look a lot more like today. They start with the Cortana. They yeah.
And next.
Next.
So now we've got all this stuff, and it's about where we were a month or two ago, right?
Yeah.
And what I see now is that, I mean, if I go back to when I joined in 304, I had a database, I had a designer that could do tables, code units, reports. That was it. It was easy to learn. I got in Navision. I was a business consultant. I was showing a customer how to manage their inventory. And they said, oh, we need a computer system. Can you install it? Which I did. Install Navision. It was easy. Oh, you need reports? Sure, I can learn those. 3 months from the first time I ever saw Navision to go live. And it was pretty successful. And in fact, the company are on 2018 now, the same customer over all those years from DOS version with the same data, upgraded every time. It was so easy, but how are we as consultants going to keep up with all this? I mean, how can one person know this? Now, it's easy. It takes years and years and years. Everybody's going to say here, not everybody. I tell you what, there's enough of us. Most of the people are going to say, but I've been doing this for 15 years. I can learn one of those new one every year, and in 15 years I've got it. But that's going to lead to our problem, isn't it?
What, of course, is very different from this picture compared to the first picture is that in the beginning we had the beauty of simplicity, which was a slogan used by Navision for many years. And it was a simple system. It was very easy to get started with. It didn't really require that you had any background within IT. You could basically take a user, give them a day's training or so, and they could start programming.
Yep. Those days are gone.
Those days are gone.
So what's going to happen next?
This is where we are now. This is where we are now.
It's pretty complex.
It's a lot of different components. But if we all look at it, what we had before was we had a completely proprietary system. Everything was unique for Navision. Everything, you really couldn't do much if you came directly from school.
That's good. That is so good. Because when I walk into a customer site, what do you hear? The Navision guy's here. It's like, oh, you've got an invoice? It's in Navision. Oh, you need to do production? It's in Navision. Oh, our web shop is, oh, it's in Navision. Everything was in Navision. I was God. I was the king. I owned everything in that customer. I knew everything about that customer. Everything was me. I was the one that did it. And of course, those of you like me will remember the old big bus theory. Customers were terrified of a big bus. Because what happens if David got hit by a big bus? They're finished. There's no one else that knows it. I mean, there are people that can do all of this, but...
But it's not really a nice picture.
No.
It's not really a nice picture.
It's a lot to
very
manage.
complex.
And on top of this, you've got a hardware structure, you've got servers, and you've got...
You have like hybrid, you can do seaside, you can do extensions, you can do everything.
So what do we
But
need?
it's not very clear. So where are we going? The next thing that will happen that we know is, of course, that our Windows client will disappear, Seaside will disappear. But I really look forward to it. I can't wait until they remove Seaside, because I like this picture. It's not the beauty of simplicity, but it's
Manageable.
It's manageable.
I remember when they did this to us in the DOS version. We had this developer, it was so good. AL was such a great language to write in. And suddenly, they threw CAL at us. It was a whole new language. We had to learn this whole structure before. And I got in the case where a customer called me up, new client, never been there before, asked me to come and do some Navision work. I just assumed it was going to be the native database. I arrive on site, get on a plane, fly there, and they throw me Navision Financials version 1.0, beta version, because they wanted the beta customers. Can you program this? I went home that night, read the books. The next morning, I was a full Seaside developer. It was pretty easy. It looked totally different. I mean, you couldn't believe the two developing environments. They didn't look anything alike. But it's the same here. Seaside's going to go, and it doesn't matter. It's the same. AL is the same. It's just looks a little bit different on the outside, but underneath it was the same. So, yeah.
But what's great about this picture is that there's really, except of course we have the different objects and thing over there, then everything here is really standard tools. It's nothing specific to Business Central. It's all standard tools. It's tools that everybody can learn. You don't need to come with a background from here.
I noticed that we've still got SQL database there, but that's going, isn't it?
SQL database as it is, it's of course there,
Yeah,
but
not
it's
for us
not
anymore.
something we as a developer should really worry that much about.
So when we get to Business Central on cloud, we're basically getting rid of all that stuff. So it is actually going to be easier. That big complex network of stuff is still there, but someone else is doing it for us.
So, being where we are now, the beauty of simplicity is gone. As we said, it's not so simple, but I wouldn't say it's not beautiful anymore, but when we get in a couple of years, I think the last slide we had was basically beautiful, seen from an IT perspective. Also, one thing we can notice is, as we saw in the beginning, it took them 15 years to do 2 new object types. And of course, nobody really missed them until then. But now we had, was it like 6, 7, 8, 9 different object types that we all need to know. Things are happening at a much faster speed. And it is all the standard tools are replacing all our previous proprietary tools.
But how are we going to survive all this? I mean, okay, it's great. We've got all this, and we're going to just do it. But we saw what happened with the old versions. You know, it never changed the thing we wanted. So let me ask you a question here. There's all these different versions of Navision out there now. How many, just show of hands, how many people, I'm going to put some versions of Navision up. I just want to know how many people currently have customers running on these versions that you're supporting. So who's got BC customers they're supporting? Okay. Keep it 2008. You can leave your hand up to 2018. Yeah. 17, 16. These are much the same. Any 13s? Yeah. 2009. How many on the Roll Tail client? Wow, that's a lot more than I thought. Okay, 2009 Classic. How many we got there? Oh, and the hands go up. All the hands go up. There we go. 5. Still a few. And now the hands will start going down. There'll be a few. And I guess there's anyone with DOS? Whoa, wow. Okay. So if I go back, then what I noticed the most is that most of the hands were up for this. I mean, it looks like at least 50% of the people here, by guess, are supporting Classic. Does that sound about right? Now, that means, Erik, yeah, this is all great. We've got all this wonderful technology, but we still got to have people supporting all those old versions, right?
Yeah, and to see what we as a partner should know, we could basically merge all the different historical slides back into that, and that's what we need to know. But of course, we have learned that a long time ago.
So we don't want to get stuck in the past. We want to make sure everyone understands where we got to and why we're there, and understand what we have to do to move forward. So I was just randomly going through the list after we got it all together, and I just picked out 4 major changes in Navision throughout its history that were significant changes, and how they affected me as a development consultant. I've done both, development, consultant, everything. So I picked 4, the biggest ones I think. The first one is DOS to Windows. And when we moved to DOS to Windows, it was very difficult because although there was, as a developer, it was much the same. There wasn't a big issue. It was a real problem when you went to a customer and sometimes you're typing lowercase d, lowercase b, uppercase, set range, and the formats were different, whereas financials was set range. So you had to write things different, and there's no IntelliSense, so you're sort of typing stuff and getting it wrong because you're in the wrong customer, you think you're in there. But in reality, the 2 products were much the same. The difference was that DOS just didn't support a lot of things. Just printing was a nightmare. You get to a customer with laser printers, you couldn't support them, and copy-paste to Excel didn't exist, a lot of things. So at that point, I made a conscious decision. I went to all my customers. I said, I will support the DOS version for 12 months. And after that, I will not support it. At the end of 12 months, if you haven't upgraded to Windows, I will transfer you to another partner. And there were a handful of partners that specialized in DOS scenarios. But I went to full Windows the day it came out. When I went to that customer and I realized what the product was, I just told all my customers, you're upgrading or not. And the upgrade path wasn't so bad. So we did that. The next thing was SQL. And when SQL came out, it was a whole different story. When we went from DOS to Windows, the technology was there and it worked. When we went to SQL, it was not ready. You know, I had customers on 2.5 of SQL, and they would be posting journals, and one table was synchronized and one wasn't. The tables would lock for 4 hours. We would be restoring databases that crashed. It was a nightmare. But because I was invisible to that and I was biased, I thought, I'm not going to touch SQL. I stayed away from it too long. Just as a thing, I work with SQL Perform now, and 50% of all my work is SQL work. So that's how much I changed. And I'm okay to admit I was wrong, as long as I move forward. So I made the decision that I was going to wait until SQL got good, and when it got good, I switched.
Yeah, I remember how you hated SQL. It was that, and now that's like what you make your living out of.
It was bad, and it became good. It really did. Once SQL 2005 came out, it was great.
But there was a lot of resistance against it.
There was huge resistance in the market, and the problem was the resistance lagged behind the product. So even when the product was resolved, even when Navision on SQL was far superior to native, even in small databases, people still wouldn't connect because they remember the past. They remember what happened to them back in those days.
But with SQL, one of the reasons they resisted was, of course, that the native database was simply superior to anything that they had seen before. It was fast performance. It never broke down. It was stable. You couldn't really
30 gig database,
destroy that database. Was basically impossible.
Yeah,
SQL, you need to run a lot of maintenance script. You need a lot of maintenance. But the native database was simply beautiful. It was so good.
Yeah, but I probably waited too long to switch to SQL, and once I did, I just dumped native, same as Windows, moved across. And with Windows, I made the absolute right choice to switch immediately. With SQL, I left it too late. I should have switched sooner than I did. Then we had Classic to RTC. Now, there were core issues, but ultimately there were only 3 problems that I think, what I saw in the thing, people didn't convert because there wasn't a report designer. I hope Klaus is in here. But there was no report designer in RTC. The pages were a completely new world, the whole concept of these HTML type pages and building it. And people were just scared of it. So there were a lot of people that just didn't move. I didn't have customers moving, so I became, in this case, I transitioned with my customers. Again, that was a mistake. I should have forced the customers into the new technology because it would have been better for them. It's the same as giving your kids medicine. Your kid doesn't want the medicine, but if you don't give them the medicine, they're going to be sick for 3 months. Give them the medicine, it'll be tough for a week, and then they're healthy again. And this is what my mistake was with RTC, is I took too long to convert across. I should have done it in 2009. I didn't do it till 2015. And by far the biggest thing that's ever happened in my life is green, financially. I mean, I know a lot of people got destroyed by this. Customers just didn't know what to do. They didn't know if they were buying Navision or Exapta or Great Plains or Solomon, or if it was going to be one, and they just stopped buying. A lot of customers.
Basically, I felt the market was completely stopped.
Yeah.
And where everybody was in waiting position, what's going to happen? Navision is dead, of course, and
yeah. And so, four completely different scenarios, 4 completely different things, and 4 different situations. The problem with green is I had no control of it. None of us could control it. It was a marketing issue. And of course, we can throw Exapta into that box because, of course, during that stage, our biggest competitor was Exapta, and they were stealing Navision deals off us. And anyway, that's irrelevant. But when you've got control, you need to look, as a consultant, as a developer, whatever you are in the Navision world, in any product. But with Navision, we need to look forward. The beauty right now is that you saw the paths we had, and we saw that Navision added things, removed it, added, it's changed. But what we're seeing now is a new phase of Navision where things are growing fast, but they're growing in the right direction. They're becoming part of the rest of the world. We're becoming more industry standard. Why is that?
Yep.
Why is it?
Yeah, it's gonna.
Yeah.
No, that's yours.
Sorry. No.
That's yours.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, I've already, yeah. The notes are on the wrong one. Sorry,
Yep.
the notes are on the wrong screen at the moment. So, the challenges we're facing right now, there's quite a few. I'm sorry, I completely skipped sorry, just go back to here. What I wanted to say in this is that for me personally, oh, no, that one. I saw that this was a one version transition. We did it in one hit. It was yes, no, it did it. And there was still people out there in the market, consultants, developers, implementers, making money out of the DOS version up till about 2000.
Yeah, and there's now, you saw the hands.
I might have to talk to some of you guys because I really thought that by 2000 the DOS market, it was there but very small. You know, there's a niche market, but it went down. With the SQL market, the native database there were still people running native till about 2012 in volume. Obviously, there's always one customer out there, but in enough volume for you to have a business, say you want to be a freelancer specializing in DOS, Navision, you're probably not going to do well right now. If you wanted to do supporting native database, you might survive, but not so great. With the classic, it's still going now. I mean, the classic client died 10 years ago, and still half the people here are making money out of it. So that's a different product to look at a different way. And this, well, it was just a small period of time. So I just wanted to say that the reason I was putting the slide up here is to show that even though we've switched technologies, and there's new technology, better technology, people are still making money out of that old stuff. We're going to touch on that a lot later to find out if they should or not, but people are doing it. So the changes we've got right now, Seaside AL, it's nothing. Don't even think of it as an issue, just change. Just stop using AL. It's not Seaside, it's not important. You've only got 2 years to do it, so just do it.
But, David,
a bigger one is...
Seaside will be around for the next 25 years.
It will, yeah, on the old versions.
No doubt. But if we want to stay on top, do it now.
Yeah, by now we mean on the plane ride home, not in a week's time. Yeah, just so you know. On-prem to cloud, that is a really, really big one for us. Obviously the performance isn't there yet on the cloud. There's still issues accessing your SQL data when it's on there and you want to connect your external BI tools. There's still a lot of issues, but ultimately, this is just a bit of guessing, and we're not actually at the guessing stage yet. We're still, we've passed the history. We're looking at the problem is that probably there'll be another 10 years of people on-prem systems. There's going to be a lot of customers that just have the lethargy that they can't move. So that's still going to be business for all of us, and we need to think about what that is. Are we better off to get those customers on the cloud or keep making money out of them on-premise? But you need to decide. As I said, when I switched to Windows, I made a conscious decision to move, and it was the best decision I ever made. Of the 4 major changes, that one I got right, and it was the first one I did. I don't know why I didn't use the same philosophy every other time. Okay, so but decide. If you're a big company with 100 consultants, then keep making money out of on-prem and build a new team to do the thing. But that's again further slide. But the biggest issue with on-prem, with Seaside to AL, with all of these other things, it was a skill set. You had to learn it. You had to go out and train and become good at it. You had to be proficient. The issue with on-prem to cloud fundamentally is nothing to do with the technology and the SQLs and all the issues we have behind. It's the change in income. Your income stream is completely different. Yes, you can say my services cost the same. The license may have dropped from 200,000 down to $85 a month, but customers don't like to see that big difference, that they're paying $85 a month for a license and $300,000 for services. It just doesn't bode with them well. And yes, you'll make the sales, and yes, you'll get them, but you'll also lose a lot of sales by not being able to do that. And
It's changing the way we make money.
yeah, and it's the biggest change of everything. All these the boxes moving, we've kept up with them, we've survived. But what is going to be the decider? What's going to decide the rest of your careers for most of you until you retire, because I guess there's a lot of people in the planning retirement age already here. The biggest issue is going to be deciding how you're going to make money over the next 10 years or so. Are you going to do a radical change to recurring revenue, or are you going to still keep trying to get the big license bucks? So ultimately, though, for all of us, and this is important, is that change is difficult, but I tell you what, changing is better than missing a mortgage payment.
That's your question.
Yeah. Okay, so how did we get here? How did we get into this situation? Why is it so hard for us to transition? What's caused this issue? Why is it so difficult, Erik?
Well, again, history. Where did we historically come from? Like, how many of you started your career in NAV as accountants? Or end users? Engineering? Or have some IT background? But that was really with a very few number of people who had a real, like, formal
There's a lot
IT.
of people who didn't put their hands up. What have we missed? I mean, less than 20% of people put their hands up there.
Uh-huh.
Oh. So
They
where did
did
the
not
rest of you
start
guys
again.
come from? You just yell out. Where did everyone else come from? Have we got another? Sorry? SAP, right? Okay, so from another product. Yeah, we didn't think of that. We'll need to remember that if we ever do this again. Okay, what else? Did someone yell out something we haven't addressed here? Because we really want to know where everyone came from.
Maybe that's the last one. Like many of us, just accidental
Yeah,
happened to.
We would have given a T-shirt if someone had said it. So hands up, how many just randomly somehow fell into this box called Navision? See, any one of you could have got a T-shirt if you'd said it.
But that was not really a problem. Because if you came with a background within IT, it was proprietary tools. You had to learn everything from start, just as an accountant, just as anybody else. There were not a lot of things that you had learned in your formal IT education that you could apply directly to your work with Navision. And also, as a result of that, we also had that our roles were very often overlapping. Consultants coded, developers consulted.
Yep.
There were no real,
did
as I
everything.
see it, the roles were very unclear. We could do,
See, you need a broad-rimmed hat like this, and it covers everything. Everything comes under one hat that way.
oops.
Right. So we hear about what's a dinosaur. Who knows? I mean, you could randomly use anything you want to define who's a dinosaur. But just as a sort of, let's take an example. If you've been working for Navision for more than 15 years, and 50% of your billable time comes from either writing code or setting up GL accounts in a customer production, bringing them live, doing the data conversion, the basic stuff, I would consider that as a dinosaur. I mean, it's something. So how many people here, this is going to be hard, isn't it? Is anyone going to put their hand up? Who's a who thinks they're a dinosaur? Yeah. So now keep them up. I'm trying to. The light's a bit difficult. I've got a great hat, covers the light, but put your hands up so I can just see. So this is good. I mean, it looks like less than a third, which is good. It's a lot less than I thought. I went to some of the who went to pre-conference sessions? Yeah, not a lot. Yeah, okay. So it was interesting when I went to the pre-conference sessions, and I did a walk around to all the classes, and I couldn't see anyone under 40 in any of those classes. I mean, unless they're just Navision makes young kids go old fast. But it really shocked me that The people that want to learn are the older people, the dinosaurs. And this is good. This is really good, but it's not good enough. We've still got to... Hang on, where's the slides? Why is it... That one should be... the screen's not showing me both slides, so... yeah, so how did we get here? Erik, why do we have all these dinosaurs? Why are we all still here, you know? Look how old we all are. So, going forward, we know this isn't going to survive. How many people in their 20s want to work with software that was made before they were even born? It's going to be very difficult, right? Yeah. So, okay, sorry. I don't know why the notes on my slide are wrong. It's okay. My fault. It's not the thing. I can blame the technology, but it isn't. So, why is it a problem? I mean, why are dinosaurs a problem? How many people here that put their hand up as a dinosaur are making money in their job? You're paying your mortgage, you're paying your rent. How many think they'll still be doing that in 10 years' time, doing basically what you're doing now? Still a few. And you can. I mean, you can get there. But the reason that dinosaurs are a problem right now is that worldwide we have about 330,000 Navision clients. That's the latest number that's thrown about. But let's be realistic. If we go to BC, where we're doing recurring revenue and we're selling licenses for under $100 a person, we need 3 million. We need 10 times that number of clients. You know, we've seen massive growth since Microsoft bought Navision, but we're looking, by massive growth, we're talking 20% per year. We need 1,000% in the next 5 years. Now, we'll get to a little bit of a breakdown, but we can roughly say that isn't this yours? No, it doesn't matter. So right now, we have one-off deliveries. Okay, how many of you guys, especially designers and so on, but just basically everyone, who here spends most of their time writing software that is sold to multiple customers? That's good. And how many write specific custom software for each customer? Yeah, okay. So we know what it is. We can't grow. There's no way that we can grow because it takes one developer to customize a solution for one thing. So we can't go 10 times. We can't go from 150 to 1.5 million developers. There's roughly 150 developers, consultants, Navision worldwide. No one knows the number, but that's the sort of guess. I know that it was about 53,000 in version 4. So if we remember back to Navision version 4, we've got triple the number of developers. How many years is that? Version 4 was 2004. So in 15 years or so, we've tripled the number of developers. That's just not enough. We need to double it in the next few years if we're going to be doing these 3 million, and we need repeatable deliveries. And it's got to be done in the next 3 to 5 years, right? So what ultimately means is that in 5 years, or 3 to 5 years' time, we should expect that 50% of all NAV developers and consultants have less than 5 years experience because we want to increase these numbers so fast. That means we're going to be developing Navision, the consultants are going to have much less experience. So how do we work around that? What do we do next?
Yeah, basically what we need to do is we need to go from being a one-man band who can do everything, go back a couple of versions, one guy, girl, could do everything.
Yeah, I did a Navision 2016 installation. I did absolutely everything myself because of basically the situation where the partner pulled out, they needed recovery, and I went in, did the whole lot. Designed it, analyzed it, wrote the code, put the whole lot in. The only thing I outsourced was the reporting. Everything else I did. You could still sort of do it, but I would never want to do that again by myself.
But you could do that with your experience, with your many years.
But how's a young
But
guy
how
gonna
can
do
you
that?
do it now, and how can any young person getting in from the street?
This guy here, he's still doing that. Yeah, his hair's grey and he's wearing different clothes and he's got glasses, but that guy is still at that computer doing that same job.
So we had one person doing basically everything. We may had like a consultant and a developer or minor teams, but it was basically small teams on most of the project.
So what do we need?
We need a modern team. We need a big game room. We need a lot of young people. We need to split up our tasks so that we can have the dinosaurs help the newbie. And also what we see is if we look at what we are supposed to do in the new world, it's a different thing. We need to analyze, we need to build a test plan, we need to design, we need to develop, we need to unit test, we need to automated test, and we need a lot more stuff on the projects today. You want to?
So what we basically saw is that we're breaking things up, and we always, if you listen to all the talk, the developers are generally the loudest and the implementers, and we keep hearing we need more developers and everything, but in reality, look at a project. You know, this, I mean, I just made these numbers up, but they're just from typical projects I'm looking at, and I just grabbed a few typical typical scenarios of projects we've done for clients, and roughly, you've got this big chunk here of writing code. Okay, there's a lot, it's very big because there's a lot of stuff hidden in there that isn't actually writing code, but we still call it development, and we bill it to the customer as development. And we have these other little things. Data conversion generally explodes and goes ahead, and analysis and design might be nothing, it might be huge, but roughly, I'm worried about that this box is quite big. But the difference is going to be this now. All of these boxes are going to be separate, little ones. And this is how we'll get scalability, because when this chunk that has become smaller, the time spent on programming becomes less and less, but we get these other things that are important. And a lot of these become repeatable. So yeah, this is, you know, if that box there is big as this, we can see that this other one gets bigger. This whole pie is bigger. The amount of work is probably going to be a lot more, but we get repeatability, and we get a massive saving, of course, on upgrading.
One important factor in the new picture, of course, is also how well will app source become? Mm-hmm. How will app source really be able to replace our customizations? Mm-hmm. Will that really be able to do that? My hope is even if we look at this picture, we had like almost 50% of the time used on development. Here it's down. We will see customizations for years to go, but it really depends on how successful is app source going to be. Will partners and deliver the small customizations that our customers need?
So how many people here would classify themselves as freelancers or contractors, consultants, independent? How many are here? Really small percentage. I would have thought a lot more. For us, I'm also a freelancer. It's going to be very difficult because I could do all... I should use mine. I've got my own, and I know how it works, but anyway, this has got a better laser. I can do all of that, okay? And I can definitely do this, and I don't want to do it, but I could do that. I can definitely do this, and I'm good at this. This is where I'm good at. So for me as a freelancer, I'd rather just do this, but you can't, because as a freelancer, the customer isn't going to say, oh, come in and analyze and design our system and then have someone else develop it. They want you to come in and do this sort of thing. So for freelancers, you've got to really decide where you're going to move forward. But as Erik was saying, where we need to move to is this. We need app source, and now we get new boxes coming in. Training manuals and videos, sales and marketing material, automated testing, your analysis. The development becomes a trivial part of writing an app. So who here is in a company that has a significant team building apps and repeatable, resellable products? Wow, that's not a lot of hands, guys. That's not a lot of hands. That's really where it's at. And you know, I remember in Directions when they released 2009, which I guess was 2008, wasn't it? I think it was about then. And Microsoft started this heavy push. Verticals, 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 verticals. And no one listened to them. And for over 10 years now, Microsoft have been pushing that, and we've all avoided it. There's a lot of reasons, and we know what they are. But we've got to get to this, where we've got teams building these repeatable products and moving forward. Sorry, man. Yeah. Why do we need to do this, Erik? Tell me. I mean, I'm saying what we've got to do. Why?
Well, one of the biggest changes is, of course, as we said, that changes are happening very fast right now. That the upgrade cycles from, if we looked at historically, sometimes 3-4 years between a major release. Now we have a major release every 6 months. If we want to keep up, we need to do things different. We need to have customers ready. We need to have everything in place. We need to have a testability framework. We need to have
Next one.
everything in place. We need to have testability because we can't put off an upgrade. If customers are in the cloud, they're going to be upgraded. We need to make sure that everything works.
Yep. If we don't do it, we're going to be stuck. So,
repeatability and
yeah.
dinosaurs.
We can't scale ourselves. We can do one project. You all said the ones that are doing it, we can do one project and then we can move to the next one, and maybe we can do 2 or 3. But this next generation has to be doing 200 or 300, 1,000 sales of a product every day. We need to be extensively scalable, which we are not.
The learning curve, not especially for consultant, but basically the learning curve in getting from the university and start working. If we look historically, if a new guy, you hired him from university, was hired, how long did it take for him to be productive?
In Navision?
In
Long
Navision,
time.
how long before a new guy coming in could pay his own salary?
Yeah, took a long time.
It took
You
a
can't
very
afford that
long time.
investment. But now we have tools that can make that easier because we're using industry standard products.
And that is the last thing, technical debt, is what we have been running around with.
Yeah.
And
It's about to bite us back. All of this technical debt we've been building up, we've been mortgaging out our Navision implementations for years and years, and we're going to have to pay for it. And we just need to pay it off now. We need to pay off that mortgage, pay the technical debt, and get into a rapid cycle. So,
beauty of simplicity. What's that?
yeah, that's fine. So what we need to do is we need to focus on less on the unnecessary stuff. What we need to do is to deliver business solutions. Don't get tied up in all the stuff that attaches it, because we don't need that day when I could go into an Navision customer and be the king and be the god and be the everything. Those days are gone. We don't want that anymore. Okay, we need to be, we still need a couple, we still need someone to research and develop and do that, but we need to focus on getting people production. And we need to focus on doing, instead of fixing mistakes, we need to do it right, and we need happy customers. So, I'm just going to add a quick note here. I'll go through this a little bit quickly, but from my lessons of the past, one thing that doesn't work is converting this idea of converting AL code, add-on codes to extensions isn't going to work. You need a bigger keyboard. If your keyboard looks like this, and you're going to be taking all of your Navision code, copy-pasting it into AL or using the AL conversion tool or whatever, I don't recommend it. I recommend you get a bigger keyboard. And I had these lessons. The trade translation tool, you need to think about keeping the design of your solution and rewrite the code from scratch. Don't upgrade bad solutions with a good coding solution. Okay. Focus on the customer, okay? And this is not so important time-wise. I don't want to waste time on this. Okay. So, is this yours?
Nope.
No? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just going to touch on this. I don't want to get started into it, but I've heard rumors that certifications are coming back, and I just want to say I'm absolutely opposed to certifications in every way whatsoever. Every time in my years in Navision that we introduced certifications, we generated 18 months to 2 years of crap developers. We released developers that could go to a computer, do a test, take screenshots of it, sell it on the internet, and the next person would come in, memorize the test and get that. All certifications does is it teaches people how to memorize tests instead of learning development. So that's my...
How would you test people then? How would we make sure that our channel
by
has
letting
the right...
them, the partners have to stop stealing developers from other people and focus on training their own. They have to know, and they have to use their name in front of the customer to say, we know, we stand by our developers because we train them. You need internal training. You need to get experts to come into your company, train your 25-year-olds to actually do things properly. You need to invest in training your own people and not trying to scalp from everything. In terms of freelancers, there's a lot of opportunities for this, and that is one of them. Freelancers can do really well in this current market, but...
Do you think we have freelancers in 5 years?
Only if we can learn to work as a team. The biggest issue that freelancers have is because in the old days we sat in that box and we could do everything. We'd go into a customer as a freelancer to do a job to install a SQL Server and BI tools, and then you'd end out changing reports because, well, the customer's paying $200 an hour. Yeah, I'll write reports. We need to stop that philosophy because it's not going to work anymore as freelancers. If we want to be freelancers, partners need to be able to trust us to come in, do a job, and get out again.
And freelancers still. I don't think we will see a lot of freelancers in the future.
Well, you already saw the number here.
But
if I asked the same question
lot
of
of people here
freelancers
are
5 years ago, half the people would have put their hand up. So, yeah, maybe you're right. I mean,
I think it's going to be very difficult to become a freelancer or to be a freelancer in the future.
Then the freelancers have to work together as a team. But we got more. Look at that. That's more important. So, do you want to? What about test-driven development? This is
Test-driven development is not something.
Let me just introduce this.
Oh.
When we started doing this, I told you I talked with Erik because Erik and I have been going for years, and I went into this presentation and we started thinking about it back in June. We met up in August. And when I had a very concrete decision on how this presentation was going to go. The main reason I wanted Erik involved is because he's one of the few people that convinced me to change my mind. And he did. And I have learned more from doing this presentation than I've learned in the last 5 years of Navision, because my research, the things I'm seeing here, is that the future is really bright. And we have to change a lot. And one of the things that Erik's really convinced me on is test-driven development. I think it's a driver right now that for the future, right?
I think it's test-driven development is nothing new. Luc van Woek, are you in here? Probably not. But you started writing about it, was in 2012 in your blog? 2011.
Yeah.
So it's nothing new. It's been around for ages. But it's not been something we have been pushed to. For developing app source extension, it's a requirement. It's not a requirement for anything else. But I would say anybody who is not doing the test development, or not necessarily using the test-driven development methodology, but if you do not have test abilities, you don't have your test code unit for your extensions, in my world, your customers are screwed. If you are in the cloud, you have no way of knowing is what you did for this customer able to work next month. I think you will not survive without tests.
No.
In this world.
That's one of the big lessons I got.
And for test-driven development, what is special with test-driven development is that it's a methodology where you start basically with your test plan and you work down and you write test and then you write code and then you write test
Yes.
and write code.
And that's
you have this instead of taking an extension and trying to write your test after, that's going to kill you. You can easily end up spending 2-3 times as long writing your tests if you do it after you've done your development.
But how much time do we spend testing and debugging code? And because we did the whole project ourselves in the old days, we write code that we think is right because we don't have anyone to soundboard it off. By doing test-driven development, it puts us in a position where we've already run the tests with the customer before we even touch the code. They've already created an Excel sheet with all of the data, the models, all the test cases we have to achieve, makes it much easier. It means we spend less time on the code. So that was a big lesson for me in writing this presentation. So just ignore that one because it's not important, but this one is. The other thing in the old days, I mentioned especially freelancers, but it's also in partners, very extensive in partners that have a lot of customers and not enough resource, is they don't train their people in a skill until they need that skill. You go to a customer and they say, oh, we need XML ports, great, go learn it. That's not going to work in the future. But on the other hand, we can't learn everything. So going forward, partners especially have to be ready to allocate their people and say, you are going to focus on doing PowerShell and .NET and, everyone happy I said those 2 words? Good. Automated testing, you're going to be doing training videos, you're going to be doing analysis. And those people have to be trained before they start working on a project. You can't learn on the go anymore. So,
as we said, we started working on this in August, and what we learned was that it's very different from what we expected when we started.
Yeah.
I was not really that positive then when we started.
No.
I'm confused in where are we going, where are we hitting. But the more we get down to it, if we learn the new method, I'm not scared anymore.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing for me. Is when I talked to Erik about this, and when we first did it, we did this Skype conversation, which is what led to this idea of us doing it together. Is we had a lot of Skype conversations. We said, let's see if we could do the Skype conversation as a presentation, and I really felt that my plan now was to work out how I can keep selling Navision 2000 or keep supporting Navision 2009 and 2016 for the next 10 years and keep going with that. But now I've realized in doing this that the opportunities for us are huge if we can just open our minds and move forward.
But the thing is we cannot continue to do our project the way we have done before.
Yes, and that's the thing.
If we stick to how we have done things all the time, then I would be scared. I would be scared that, okay, I quote a customer for a development, and then I find out I have to test, and that takes 3 times the time. Who will pay that? Who will pay for the test? But that's when we went into and find out if we're actually using the right methods, the right industry standard. It's not really, I'm not scared.
Yeah. The big issue was us, that we didn't know what the problem was. And the problem was our fear of change. And once we defined over that, we realized that we can get going forward. So, sorry. Yeah, so we both got to we came to a similar direction, a similar understanding of where we are and where we need to go, but we had different ways of getting there. And we decided, so we decided at this point, Erik will give his view and I'll give mine, and you can see where we actually came to.
And then we will have basically a discussion on do you agree with what you're saying?
Yeah. Oh, hang on.
As I said before, we have a precious
T-shirts.
Opportunity.
So who agrees with my side, yeah?
We have a precious opportunity. Before we had this proprietary world with nothing new. Now we have industry standards. Now we can follow the methodology. Now we have design patterns. Now we have clean code. Now we have all these tools that everybody else in the industry have been using for 20 years. They're new buzzwords in our world, but in other IT areas, it's been the norm. But we need to use these methodologies. We need to go into focusing on repeatability. We need to focus on our quality and test and growth. Otherwise, we will never get up to 3.3 million customers. But to adopt those, we need to ensure that our teams have the skills. And the lucky thing with industry standards is that when we go and hire these people, all these young people that we need, they have been looking at Navision and what they saw, they saw Navision, even as I said, they saw something that was 25 years old. Navision and Seaside is so unsexy. It's so, it was, so yesterday, it was modern when it came up, but that was 25 years ago. No new person coming from university think that Navision looked sexy. Now we have standard tools. I don't want to say that the standard tools makes it sexy, but it makes it that we can actually go to the university. We can hire people from university. They have learned skills. They have learned coding methods. They have learned test-driven development. They have learned all these methods. They have learned JavaScript. I can't write a line of JavaScript, and I'm not intending to do it, because JavaScript programmers we can get in from the street. Instead, we need to focus on our skills and our specialties. That each of us, all the dinosaurs, now I'm talking to you, the dinosaurs, we need to be very aware of what our skills are, and then focus on that. We need to focus on helping new users getting started. We need to be mentors and work in teams. But of course, even if you are a specialist, you need to know a lot of different things. For instance, if you develop, even if you're not going to write your test code unit, if you don't know how to write test code units, I would say you can't write code. But if you know the methodology in writing tests, you can write so much better code for the future. And then, of course, one thing that we saw, as David said, he owned everything as his customer. He did everything, and we had a tendency to put everything into Navision. Just as yesterday saw some demo of client thing, because we had the tools. Navision were a tool. That was where we did things. We need to look more into the connected apps and the different framework that we have available today. We shouldn't do everything in Business Central. We should use what we have outside. Do the things in Business Central that make sense. It's not the reason we did it. We didn't have the skills to do it outside. For me, I've done plenty of solutions in Navision that really had nothing to do with accounting or business management. Yeah. We did it because we could. And basically, we did it there because we couldn't do it anywhere else. That was our home world. But if we get people in, new people who knows a lot of different things that we don't, we need to use it.
So as I said, we did our summary separate so that we could then, we didn't look at each other, so we can go back at the end and see if we got to the same story. So what I learned from doing this presentation, so I felt that for a lot of us, and you know, I'm like everybody, I don't want to consider myself a dinosaur, but in reality I know I am. You know, it's hard to get away from that. So I look at what's great for you on the terms of what will be good for me. What could I do going forward that makes sense? And I found there's a lot of options, and I narrowed them down to 4. So if you remember, I mentioned about the DOS, about the native Navision database, about classic client. It still exists out there, and if you want to survive 10 years and then retire, you can still do this. And I don't know if anyone's from Microsoft here, they're going to come down and hit me if I say this, but there's nothing wrong with that. Those customers still need to be supported, and even though there's this sudden belief that every customer within the next before 2020 is going to convert from on-prem to BC, it's not happening. It absolutely will not happen. They're not even going to convert 50%, even though they believe everyone's going to convert. We need to focus on separation. If you're a big company, have a division that supports your dinosaur clients. A separate division with separate people. Don't mix the people up. Have a new team which is doing your new customers. As your customers convert, have one of those teams convert your customer across and come with them over to the BC team. Pick one of the skills they've got and move across. Slowly get them out. If you're a freelancer, it's tougher. Decide, do you want to stay with it or do you want to convert? Don't try and struggle with doing both, because you won't have the marketing skills to get the customers and compete against the young kids. You just won't. On the other hand, they won't have a hope in hell of competing with you. So if you're a freelancer, either decide to stick there or move on. If you're a big company and you've got the resources, separate into two separate teams. You can choose a speciality, okay? So, I mean, my specialty right now is SQL. I said it's a massive transition from someone that hated SQL and told people never to use SQL ever. It'll never be usable. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. Most of my work is SQL oriented. And I could specialize in that, except that we don't know if SQL will survive through BC. It may vanish. It may not. It may vanish. But there's 100 other things out there you can do. We can see a lot of people here that have found a niche. A lot of dinosaurs have found a nice little niche, and they are now the world expert in it. I mean, if I want a PowerShell script, I'm not going to learn it. I'm not going to learn PowerShell. I'm going to go to waldo.be, give me a script that'll do some magic, and he's going to do all the work for me. So there's another 20, 30, 40 specialties out there that need a couple of supermen, superwomen to fill it in. You know, let's get that out there and be a specialist if you want to. But if you become a specialist, you're going to have a transition period from your old things to the new specialty is going to be difficult. You can become an architect. For me, this would be my second preference, not my first one, but my second preference is an architect. Erik has spent more of his life as an architect than I have. Be the one that designs the system, designs how it's going to. If your company is going to build a new add-on, or an app, they need someone that's an industry specialist, but they also need an internal architect that designs how you're going to build it, how are you going to build the training manuals, how is the automated testing working. Be the designer, the overall manager, not the manager, that's a different thing, but the technical designer of the system.
And it's going to be even more important if we're going to get, like half of our teams are people with less than 5 years experience, we still need the people with all the experience.
An architect is also a mentor. But for me, the best thing you can do is you've got a skill set that these 25-year-olds do not have. Pass it on. Get into training. If you're a partner and you've got a team of 10 people and 7 were dinosaurs, employ another 25 young people, have those as your students, and do internal training. Get the experts. There's a lot of experts here that will come and train your trainers to build yourselves up and build your team up. Okay? I mean, I went to Daniel's course on Tuesday, and I brought Daniel into the freelancing market, and I learned from him so much in one day. I couldn't believe how much I was able to learn in just a day. Don't be ashamed to go out and learn, and don't be ashamed to pay people to teach you. Just do it, you know, and become the trainer. We all become the trainers. 300,000 of the 330,000 or 300,000 developers. It's 150,000 people that need to be trained over the next 3 years. There's going to be a lot of work for us to get into training. My next summary I got from this whole thing is don't upgrade bad code. Don't upgrade bad solutions. Yeah, you may have the perfect solution with the table design is great and everything, but copy-pasting using the transformation tool or whatever, it is a road to disaster. I know that everyone is saying, yeah, but I can convert my code. Just don't. Coding is nothing. It doesn't take long to write code. It takes time to design a system and make it work. And you will convert the code from C-side to AL, and you'll say, oh, well, I won't use that code because that's bad. So I'll just use it for my first testing, and then I'll rewrite it. If it works, you won't rewrite it, and you will have that technical debt. You'll have DOS systems going across. I remember, for example, on the Tuesday course, there was a question about management code units. And the reason we have management code units in Navision, which have to go, the reason we have them is because the DOS version of Navision was interpreted, not compiled. So in the DOS version of Navision, you had to get all these big code units in one place, so they'd pull into cache. The because the interpreter was too slow if it was reading from disk. So in financials, in 1.1, in 1995, Microsoft said they're getting rid of all the management code units. They didn't get rid of them. You're still writing them now in BC because of a technical requirement of DOS computers. Okay? Don't keep using that old code. Throw it, start again. The next thing is we have to stop being the gods and the kings and the owners. ERP is dead. Okay, there's no one's going to be building ERP systems anymore. ERP means I have one box, a server, and every piece of data of my company is in that server. Those days are dead. It's connectivity now. It's pulling the stuff out. If I needed stuff in BI, I'm going to put it into BI. If I need a web shop, I'm going to put it outside on the web and I'm going to interface it. Get away from the idea of putting everything into Navision or to BC, whatever. They changed the name, didn't they? It's not Navision anymore. Sorry, I forgot that. What matters in the end is, as a customer, I want to pay you $10,000, and I want you to show me that my business improves by by $15,000. I want to make money. I don't want Navision or a business system to be a cost center. I want to see how it makes my business better. I want it to get my people more efficient. Focus on what it's going to take to deliver the system, not all the fluff and the gaps that make it all look pretty. Get the job done. It's not about superheroes. We need to mass produce. And just my philosophy in life is it's always better to be happy than to be right. So, we plan to have 10 minutes of question and answer. We got 4 minutes, which isn't too bad. And can I do the next slide now or not?
Oh.
Can I do the next slide?
Next slide.
Next slide, the video.
No,
Afterwards. Yep. So, questions. We got a couple there. Throw it in the middle and.
Hello. Oh, well, it's actually not a question, more like a thank you, because I am not a dinosaur yet, but my management basically is, and they keep on fighting. Just, we see the iceberg, and they say actually speed up so we just smash through instead of saying. Let's find the new direction with I don't know.
And you cut the tip off the iceberg, and it floats up again.
They think we can do matching. I have now a lot of arguments to discuss with them, thanks to you. So thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. And you have a chance to drive change in your company. Do it. Give them this presentation and tell them they need to move. And I think the guy next to you had a question, right? Yeah.
Yes. So the numbers that you were showing about.
Can you talk a bit louder?
Going from 300,000.
Can you talk louder? It's really bad.
The numbers that you were showing about going from 300,000 clients to 3 million clients.
Yeah.
Is this also the philosophy of Microsoft?
I don't know if it's possible or not, but I know if they don't do it, what's the point of keeping Navision? What's the point of them buying a product? I did a quick math, and how many people have purchased Outlook 365? You can go into 365 and say, on the options when you're ticking, you can say, I want to do invoicing. And if you click that, you've just bought Navision without realizing it. Now, if accidentally 1 in 10 people click that button by accident, Microsoft will sell more Navision than the entire Navision network will ever sell, right? That's how trivial it is, what? So it's critical that they reach those numbers, otherwise, are they going to keep us around? We have to get those numbers. I don't want to be Nokia or Windows Phone or whatever.
I think the heaviest part for our business is to win new and young people for our business. And do you know if there are any plans to get these people from the university or whatever? I think it's not easy. In Germany,
it's not easy, but we have to do it. I mean, it's not a case of can we do it or can't. If we don't do it, we won't survive. It's simple. It's not a case of can we do it, should we? We have to do it. We have to do everything. As partners, the partners have to start. Microsoft are panicking because they can't find 300 developers, but the partner network needs 150,000. It has to be partner driven. The partners have to build up they have to train. You've got to stop looking at these websites to find new employees. You want a new employee? You've got to get someone out of university and train them. We've got to stop this idea of partners focusing on recruitment.
But the big difference is that they actually don't need that much training anymore. Before they needed to start from scratch, from what they learned in university. to have something they could apply to Navision or to Business Central. Now you can take people, they have the skills. You need to give them the knowledge about Business Central.
And a good
But
architect
the
can manage
programming, the
that.
development, the technical skills, they have.
There was no source for Navision developers
But
before
they
except
must
the
know
end
that
user channel.
Navision exists. Business Central, yes.
So we've got some questions over here. Up. Hey. Oof. Who? Up. And there's a guy behind you as well. We got t-shirts still? Yeah.
Just here?
Yeah.
So I work.
Welcome.
So I work for an end user.
Yeah.
And we have NAV 2017. And what I ask myself is the new client also the right product for us, because we have a lot of customizations in it, and I think it's not that easy to transfer to the cloud if you have very much customizations in your solution.
That's what I was saying about the throwing code away. It's going to be really, really hard for you to accept this, but you need to, unless you did perfect design of your system, I can pretty much guarantee I can go into just about any Navision customer, and within a day I can give you a list of 30 major bugs and problems in your system that should never have been done. Everyone will do that because you evolved and you changed. You need to look at the design, look at your tables, look at the data, look at what you should have done, take that as a design spec and get the developers to rewrite from scratch. That will be cheaper than fixing it, because your biggest cost with Navision right now for you is upgrading. You can't upgrade. Upgrading becomes free if you do all the work beforehand, if you do all the automated testing, if you move it to all extensions. But you can't take your old junk and carry it across and expect it to work. Invest in rewriting your code. It will be so much cheaper than you think compared to trying to convert. It will be cheaper, and in 2 years' time your money will come back, and then it will be upgrades for free for life.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a guy behind you.
Yeah.
Behind you. We got out of t-shirts?
Nope, yep.
Sorry.
No.
Hi. So I was wondering.
Sorry,
because,
the guy's in technical. Can you turn the volume up, please?
No, we just
Just that one.
it's already exploded.
Oh, all right.
So
Oh, yeah. Yeah, talk.
so since Business Central is eventually moving to web only, and we see these techniques that are common in web development emerging in the NAV world, do you think that eventually our development process as an NAV developer will become much more similar to that of web development?
I think it's the whole thing I learned from this is that, as Erik just said 2 minutes ago, you can take someone off the street, not off the street, out of university, and they already know PowerShell and .NET and how to write in C#, and they already know what Visual Studio Code is, they already know how to interface to SQL, they know what a JSON file is. 3 days ago, I didn't know what a JSON file was, okay? Now I do, and it's easy. But you're going to get people out of university, and I'm going to say to them, write this code. You've got an architect. There's so many of us dinosaurs out there working. We'll work as the architect, and we'll say, develop this piece of code to do this. That guy's going to be productive a month after you employ them. It's wonderful. You're going to make money out of people so fast.
We have a bright future. Thank you. We have a bright future if we do it right.
Yep.
Is AL going to be replaced by C# in a couple of years?
My belief is that no, because they've made so many tries at it that failed. They now have something that works really well, and I feel what will happen is that you'll have both options, but connectivity gives you C#. You don't need to do it in Navision. Write it in C#, do web services, interface it all in. Write your application outside of Navision. It doesn't need to be in Navision. We've got to get off this idea that, oh, it's so hard to develop in Navision. Yeah, it is, so don't do it. Put your app outside.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just have it as the center, as a database, do it. Any more questions? Yeah. You can always come down here afterwards if you want. Oh, hang on, and I forgot my, oh, we lost it. Oh, I lost it.
How did you come to the figures? It's the
I made
numbers
them up.
of the numbers
I
of
made
the.
them up. I made them up.
You made them up
Yep.
because it tends more the clients than in 5 to 10 years.
It has, I made the numbers up, but I'm just trying to get an order of magnitude to show you that we can't go up by 20%. We have to make this huge increment because of the financial model of selling a system. We used to sell a system for $500,000. Now we're selling a system for $3,000. We've got to increase the numbers or we're all going to go out of business. We have to do it. I don't know how, but we have to do it. We must do it.
Okay.
Yep.